Thursday afternoon and evening into Friday morning. Weekend looking dry, partly cloudy, and highs in the low 80s.
Weather, Katie.
All right, Al, thank you. Tourist or terrorists? You may think you can tell the difference, but several incidents in the past few days prove there's a lot of confusion out there in the wake of those terror attacks overseas. Now some are wondering if racial profiling should be used here in the U.S. Here's NBC's Michael Oku.
It may be a sign of the times. This week, a Manhattan sightseeing bus is evacuated. 5 foreign tourists handcuffed and questioned after the bus operator feared they might be terrorists. Then yesterday, pilots divert a London-bound United Airlines flight to Boston after 3 Pakistani passengers are reported acting suspiciously.
Well, now it's here we go again. It's we know that there's going to be a backlash.
Iraqi-born Salam Amariyati says after the London bombings, American Muslims prepared for the worst. His own 10-year-old son Zaid complains people at airports fear he's a terrorist.
The issue I think that we all feel is every one of us becomes a suspect.
The question is, are we all overreacting, or is the American public in a quandary? After all, our own government has repeatedly said, be vigilant. And right or wrong, most people think they have an idea of what to be vigilant for. Experts say intelligence stops terrorism, not individual profiling. But many argue when Middle Eastern men are so often the perpetrators, it's natural to suspect them. A sentiment expressed with controversy by Washington, D.C. talk radio host Michael Graham.
Islam is a terrorist organization that is in the process of murdering people to achieve its terror goals.
Attitudes like that, plus a frightened public on the lookout for possible bombers, could make for a volatile mix.
The general population is going to just be swayed in a direction where they are going to be looking for a certain look of what they think a terrorist is. We need to train ourselves on what to look for and what to report.
A plane rerouted, innocent people humiliated, racist or reasonable, baseless or necessary evil. For today, Michael Oku, NBC News, Los Angeles.
So does profiling make sense, or is it a serious violation of civil rights? Former Republican Congressman Joe Scarborough is host of MSNBC Scarborough Country, and Hussein Ibish is the vice chair of the Progressive Muslim Union. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you.
Good to be with you. Good morning.
Joe, let me start with you if I could. New York Police Commissioner Ray Kelly made it clear that the random searches on subways and buses will not involve racial profiling or ethnic profiling. Some think, though, it's inevitable that Arab men will be scrutinized, and you don't have a problem with that. Why?
Well, I don't have a problem with it for the same reason why I would have no problem with police chiefs in the South focusing on conservative Christian young males if there's another abortion clinic bombing. I mean, it just makes good common sense. You look at abortion clinic bombings, and unfortunately, extremist Christian white males are the ones that have to be focused upon because they're the ones over the years that continue to commit these crimes. You look at a situation like this, though, and whether it's on a subway or on a plane, it makes absolutely no sense for the TSA to frisk my 2-year-old baby daughter, which they do. It makes no sense for them to frisk my 72-year-old mother, which they do. We have limited resources, got a $400 billion deficit right now, and the thing is, we aren't even protecting our ports or our rail lines because we've got these limited resources. It seems to me we've got to focus on the people who unfortunately committed the 2001 terror attack in the U.S., also USS Cole in 2000, Khobar Towers in 97, and also the First World Trade. I mean, it's just good police work. Forget about all these racist comments made by talk show hosts. It just makes good common sense to protect people in New York.
We'll get to that comment in a moment, but Hussein, I know you disagree with this, but by way of example, police in London have named 2 of the suspected bombers from last week's failed attack. They both have Muslim names. So if intelligence or experience leads you to a certain ethnic group, isn't the responsible thing for police to follow those leads?
No, I mean, I think the former Secretary of DHS, when he was about to leave office, Tom Ridge, put it best. He said, look, we can't afford to kid ourselves that there's an ethnic or a racial profile to the threat from international terrorism. And I think the London example is a very good one, because while the police were chasing Brazilian electricians they mistook for Pakistani suicide bombers, the people they should have been after and now are turned out to be an Eritrean, a Somalian, and an East African men. In the piece you just played by Michael Oku, put up the pictures from London of the 4 most wanted men in Britain and said Middle Eastern men, but those are actually East African men men. What people have to understand is that Arabs, first of all, are not an ethnic group that you can easily recognize.
They're not monolithic, in other words.
Scarborough could be an Arab. I mean, I am a Middle Eastern Arab, and I don't think I fit any stereotype. It's worse when you talk about Muslims, because Muslims are in every society. At least 1/3 of the American Muslims are African Americans. So if you start profiling American Muslims, you're going to end up profiling black people again. And here we have, you know, examples of Arabs involved in Al-Qaeda, Pakistanis, East Africans, but also Jose Padilla, who's in jail here as an accused high-level Al-Qaeda guy. We've had John Walker Lynn, Richard Reed, people from all kinds of different ethnic backgrounds. So not only you can't look at a person and say this is an Arab, and even less this is a Muslim, more there are people from all different ethnic groups who are being drawn to this ideology. And so I think that's why the government knows that it sounds nice to say on television, oh, we'll just use ethnic profiling and we'll go after Arabs, but people don't know how to tell one Arab from another, or how to tell the difference between someone who's a Muslim and not a Muslim, because you can't do it by sight. It's just
Joe, Joe, go ahead.
Totally impossible.
I was just going to say, Katie, I mean, you can even, I mean, I agree in part, this is getting more difficult. Al-Qaeda's in 40 countries, on almost every continent right now. They're South Asian terrorists, they're African terrorists, but at the same time, let's look at the people who've attacked in the United States now. That's all we can do. We know it doesn't look like my 2-year-old baby daughter.
Well,
we know it doesn't look like my hold on a second. We know it doesn't look like my 72-year-old grandma.
Okay, got it. Go ahead, Hussein.
Let me just say,
we can only look at the people who have attacked the United States of America, and that's good.
Gentlemen, we can't understand either of you if you talk on top of each other. Hussein, go ahead.
I want to say that people should know that TSA last year found a loaded handgun sewn into a teddy bear of a 3-year-old child. If they weren't checking that 3-year-old child's teddy bear, they would have ended up with a loaded handgun on a U.S. domestic air flight. I don't think we want that. Look, the government can't afford to engage in this kind of facile demagoguery and populism. The government has to be serious about creating a security regime that warns against provides against all kinds of very difficult to predict against threats, including not only Al-Qaeda, but also homegrown crazies. And even when it comes to Al-Qaeda and Al-Qaeda-like groups, they know very well that if you start just using people's prejudices and stereotypes, it'll collapse completely and you won't have security at all.